Hello and welcome. This is the design I'm going to be working from today. This happens to be a pink hydrangea that was growing in a pot in the backyard. One thing that's kind of interesting about these, I will be referring to the colored part as sepals because those are not actually flowers. The actual flowers are down in the center of those colored sepals, the little round areas in the middle. And so you'll hear me use the term sepal quite a bit. But these also, if they were planted in the ground, may be blue the next season, as with this next photo. Here is a blue version, and you'll see a little bit of a pink tinge to it. They get bluer as the soil gets more and more acidic. So this one is probably in between, showing example of pink sepals and blue sepals. But today I'm going to take the design of the pink hydrangea that you saw, and I'm going to do it in a blue lavender color. Now here's an example of a hydrangea that is a bit confused. It's in that in-between soil pH where it's not acid enough and not alkaline enough to make it either blue or pink, and it's showing some of both colors. And that's why I put a little bit of magenta on the sepals in my example. The palette for the hydrangea painting will be American Journey Sap Green, Daniel Smith Imperial Purple, Lemon Yellow, Holbein Ultramarine Blue Deep, Core Quinacridone Magenta, and Winsor & Newton Cobalt Blue. Now, I've done a painting previously that was a pink version, and today we're going to do one that's sort of a blue lavender version. This is my original painting. We're going to do a little bit of a smaller version today on a 7x10 instead of a 9x12. This particular painting was done on Stonehenge paper, and today I'll be using Arches 140 pound cold pressed paper. I have some of the paint already mixed up. I took some Winsor Newton Cobalt Blue and mixed it with Imperial Purple, and it made a very nice mix. I'm really happy with that mix. And I use a variety of brushes as always. Never know exactly what brushes I'm going to use, but generally today I'll be using filberts and maybe some angular washes. I'm going to wet the paper first as I work with these sepals here, because I want the paint to spread, and I'd like to keep the centers more on the light side and the darker color on the outer side of the sepal. So I'm wetting the paper first and letting the paint flow toward the center. I'm just using two brushes so I won't have to keep rinsing my original brush every time I start a new sepal. I'm just going to have one water brush and one with the paint on it. I generally work from left to right because I'm right-handed, so that just helps me keep my hand off of the wet paint. But you'll notice I'm not letting the areas touch each other because the paint will run into the other wet paint, so I have to skip around. You can see maybe some slight separation of color, but that's really what I like. In other words, the blue and the purple separate slightly. you'll notice that things are speeded up a little bit because this is a little bit of a repetition here, just painting all these different sepals. If the paint is not flowing exactly the way you want it to, you can dab it up and start again. That's what I did there a minute ago. I'm painting some of the sepals darker and some lighter. That gives a little bit of a difference in value. The ones that are behind and underneath are a little bit darker. The photo itself did not show a lot of shadowing. The pot was sitting up underneath some trees, and it didn't show much shadowing, but for the most part, I think the light is coming in on the upper right-hand side. all my painted edges are still damp on that right-hand side, so I will have to wait to finish painting the blooms. I'll need to shift over and paint some of the light green veins in the leaves. I mixed some lemon yellow and sap green to get that light color. Now the rest of the blooms should be dry, and I can go ahead and finish those out. Well, that's just the first layer completed on the blooms. Just putting a little light green in the center of the sepals. Those little round centers are actually the true flowers. Now I'm filling in the leaf with sap green mixed with ultramarine blue deep. And it's almost impossible to go around those veins without covering them up, so I will clean those up later, so not to worry about that. There's one more tiny little leaf up under there, and in the photo it actually looks a little bit lighter green, so I just mixed up some sap green with just a little bit of the blue in it so it wouldn't be too dark. Now I'm cleaning up the veins. I added more blue to make a darker green. Now the yellow brush has stiffer bristles and it's good for lifting paint, so I'm going with just a very moist brush, not an excessive amount of water on the brush, and just rubbing along the veins and then dabbing it with a paper towel, and that lifts up some of that darker green paint. You'll see the veins starting to emerge again. That's a flat brush, what Cheap Joe calls his ugly brush. Sometimes it's used for masking fluid and things like that, but it has stiffer bristles and it works real well for lifting paint. Now I'm just going over it again with the light green color, lemon yellow and sap green. Just defining the middle a little bit with some darker color. Putting a little shadow around the left bottom side of those little flowers. Now I'm going over that leaf again with just sap green, wanted to brighten it up a little bit. I only did that one, and to save time I didn't do the others, but normally I would probably put 2 or 3 coats, making sure that before I did that each layer was completely dry before I glaze on another layer. Now I'm going to go over some of the blooms and make some of the darker values more evident and a little bit of shadowing. Still using the blue and purple mixture, but just concentrated a little bit stronger. Now I'm glazing over a little bit of the magenta color on 4 or 5 random sepals. Just makes it look a little more interesting. And in real life, you may see some of that pinkish in some of the blue hydrangeas. If the soil pH is a little bit less acidic and a little more alkaline, you may see some pink tinge in the sepals. Again, defining the flowers in the middle with a little bit more shadowing underneath. Now for the background, I am going to wet it nice and wet, and I'm going to do a multicolored background just for interest. I've got 4 colors, I think, and those were all used in the main part of the painting, so I'm just repeating the same colors. Just make sure you don't have any edges dry out on you. That's the most important thing. I noticed a lot of people, when they put on these kinds of backgrounds, they don't wet it enough and it dries out on them, and then you get some hard edges in there, or maybe some blooms, some cauliflowers. So just keep it nice and wet as you move around. You've got to do it quickly. And I used a smaller angular shader to get into those little grooves on the leaves. I like those flat brushes, those small flat brushes, to get into the corners. I had just a few little spots that I wanted to fill in there. You have to be very careful though. You can't fiddle with the background when it's wet like that. You may end up kind of messing up the background. Okay, almost forgot some of the shadowing on the bottom there, just adding that. Like I said earlier, I only put a second layer on one leaf, but you can go ahead and do that with all your leaves. Just make sure they're good and dry before you put another layer of paint on. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that helped, and we'll see you next time.